Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 16, Text 28. Bhagavantam Parikramya Pranipatyanu Manyacha Prati Jagmu Pramudita Samshanto Vaishnavim Shriyam. The sages circumambulated the Supreme Lord, offered their obeisances, and returned, extremely delighted at learning of the divine opulences of the Vaishnava. Purport. It is still a respectful practice to circumambulate the Lord in Hindu temples. Especially in Vaishnava temples, there is an arrangement for people to offer their respects to the deity and circumambulate the temple at least 3 times. Text 29. Bhagavan anugavaha yatam abhaishtam astusam brahmateja samartopi antum neche matam tume. The Lord then said to his attendants Jaya and Vijaya, "Depart this place, but fear not. All glories unto you. Though I am capable of nullifying the Brahmana's curse, I would not do so. On the contrary, it has my approval." Purport. As explained in connection with text 26, all the incidents that took place had the approval of the Lord. Ordinarily, there is no possibility that the 4 sages could be so angry with the doorkeepers, nor could the Supreme Lord neglect his 2 doorkeepers, nor can one come back from Vaikuṇṭha after once taking birth there. All these incidents, therefore, were designed by the Lord himself for the sake of his pastimes in the material world. Thus, he plainly says that it was done with his approval. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for inhabitants of Vaikuṇṭha to come back to this material world, simply because of a Brahminical curse. The Lord especially blesses the so-called culprits, all glories unto you. A devotee once accepted by the Lord can never fall down. That is the conclusion of this incident. Text 30. Etat puraiva nirdishtam Ramaya krudhaya yada purapabharitadvari vishanti maya uparate. This departure from Vaikuṇṭha was foretold by Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She was very angry because when she left my abode and then returned, you stopped her at the gate while I was sleeping. Text 31. Mahi samramba yogena nishtirya brahmahelanam pratyeshatam nikashame kalenalpiya sapuna. The Lord assured the 2 Vaikuṇṭha inhabitants, Jaya and Vijaya, by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger, you will be cleansed of the sin of disobeying the Brahmanas, and within a very short time return to me. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead advised the 2 doorkeepers, Jaya and Vijaya, that by dint of bhakti yoga in anger, they would be delivered from the curses of the Brahmanas. Srila Madhva Muni remarks in this connection that by practicing bhakti yoga, one can become free from all sinful reactions. Even a Brahma Sapa, or a curse by a Brahmana, which cannot be overcome by any other means, can be overcome by bhakti yoga. One can practice bhakti yoga in many rasas. There are 12 rasas, 5 primary and 7 secondary. The 5 primary rasas constitute direct bhakti yoga, but although the 7 secondary rasas are indirect, they are also counted within bhakti yoga, if they are used in the service of the Lord. In other words, bhakti yoga is all-inclusive. If one somehow or other becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he becomes engaged in Bhakti Yoga as described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.29.15. Amam Krodham Bhayam. The gopis were attracted to Krishna by Bhakti Yoga in a relationship of lusty desire, kama. Similarly, Kamsa was attached to Bhakti Yoga by dint of fear of his death. Thus, Bhakti Yoga is so powerful that even becoming an enemy of the Lord and always thinking of him can deliver one very quickly. It is said, Vishnu Bhakta Smrto Dhaiva Asuras Tad Vipanyaya. Devotees of Lord Vishnu are called demigods, whereas non-devotees are called asuras. But Bhakti Yoga is so powerful that both demigods and asuras can derive its benefit if they always think of the personality of Godhead. The basic principle of Bhakti Yoga is to think of the Supreme Lord always. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18.65, Man mana bhava mad bhakta. Always think of me. It doesn't matter which way one thinks, the very thought of the personality of Godhead is the basic principle of Bhakti Yoga. In the material planets, there are different grades of sinful activities, of which disrespecting a Brahmana or a Vaishnava is the most sinful. Here it is clearly stated that one can overcome even that grave sin simply by thinking of Vishnu, not even favorably, but in anger. Thus, even if those who are not devotees always think of Vishnu, they become free from all sinful activities. Krishna consciousness is the highest form of thought. Lord Vishnu is thought of in this age by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. From the statements of Bhagavatam, it appears that if one thinks of Krishna even as an enemy, that particular qualification, thinking of Vishnu or Krishna, cleanses one of all sins. Text 32. Vastavadisya Bhagavan Vimana Shreni Bhushanam Sarvati Shaya Lakshmyam Justam Svam Dishnyam Avishat. After thus speaking at the door of Vaikuṇṭha, the Lord returned to his abode, where there are many celestial airplanes and all surpassing wealth and splendor. Purport. It is clear from this verse that all the incidents took place at the entrance of Vaikuṇṭha Loka. In other words, the sages were not actually within Vaikuṇṭha Loka, but were at the gate. It could be asked, how could they return to the material world if they entered Vaikuṇṭha Loka? But factually, they did not enter, and therefore they returned. There are many similar incidents where great yogis and brahmanas, by dint of their yoga practice, have gone from this material world to Vaikuṇṭha, but they were not meant to stay there. They came back. It is also confirmed here that the Lord was surrounded by many Vaikuṇṭha airplanes. Vaikuṇṭha is described here as having splendid opulence, far surpassing the splendor of this material world. All other living creatures, including the demigods, are born of Brahma, and Brahma is born of Lord Vishnu. Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter, Aham Sarvasya Prabhava. Lord Vishnu is the origin of all manifestations in the material world. Those who know that Lord Vishnu is the origin of everything, who are conversant with the process of creation, and who understand that Vishnu, or Krishna, is the most worshipable object of all living entities, engage themselves in Vishnu worship as Vaishnavas. The Vedic hymns also confirm this. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. The goal of life is to understand Vishnu. Bhagavatam also confirms this elsewhere. Foolish people, not knowing that Vishnu is the supreme worshipable object, create so many worshipable objects in this material world, and therefore they fall down. 33. Autu Girvana Rishabo Dustaradhari Lokata Tashriyo Brahmasapad Abhutam Vigatasmayo. But those two gatekeepers, the best of the demigods, their beauty and luster diminished by the curse of the Brahmanas, became morose and fell from Vaikuṇṭha, the abode of the Supreme Lord. 34. Tadha Vaikuṇṭha Dishana Tayor Nipatmanayo Ahakaro Mahan Asid Vimana Greyashu Putraka. Then, as Jaya and Vijaya fell from the Lord's abode, a great roar of disappointment arose from all the demigods who were sitting in their splendid airplanes. Text 35. Tabheva hyaduna prapto parshada pravarohare diter jatara nirvishtam kasyapam teja ulbanam. Lord Brahma continued, those two principal doorkeepers of the personality of Godhead have now entered the womb of Diti, the powerful semen of Kasyapa Muni having covered them. Purport. Here is clear proof of how a living entity coming originally from Vaikuṇṭha is encaged in the material elements. The living entity takes shelter within the semen of the father, which is injected within the womb of the mother. And with the help of the mother's emulsified ovum, the living entity grows a particular type of body. In this connection, it is to be remembered that the mind of Kasyapa Muni was not in order when he conceived the two sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Therefore, the semen he discharged was simultaneously extremely powerful and mixed with the quality of anger. It is to be concluded that while conceiving a child, one's mind must be very sober and devotional. For this purport, the Garbhadan Samskar is recommended in the Vedic scriptures. If the mind of the father is not sober, the semen discharged will not be very good. Thus, the living entity wrapped in the matter produced from the father and mother will be demoniac like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. The conditions of conception are to be carefully studied. This is a very great science. Text 36. Kayor asura yor adya tejasa yama yor hiva akshiptam teja etarhi bhagavam stad vidhitsati. It is the prowess of these twin asuras, demons, that has disturbed you, for it has minimized your power. There is no remedy within my power, however, for it is the Lord himself who desires to do all this. Purport. Although Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, formerly Jaya and Vijaya, became asuras, the demigods of this material world could not control them, and therefore Lord Brahma said that neither he nor all the demigods could counteract the disturbance they created. They came within the material world by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he alone could counteract such disturbances. In other words, although Jaya and Vijaya assumed the bodies of asuras, they remained more powerful than anyone, thus proving that the Supreme Personality of Godhead desired to fight because the fighting spirit is also within him. He is the original in everything. But when he desires to fight, he must fight with the devotee. Therefore, by his desire, only were Jaya and Vijaya cursed by the Kumars. The Lord ordered the gatekeepers to go down to the material world to become his enemies so that he could fight with them, and his fighting desires would be satisfied by the service of his personal devotees. Brahma showed that the demigods' situation, created by the darkness for which they were disturbed, was the desire of the Supreme Lord. He wanted to show that even though these two attendants were coming in the form of demons, they were very powerful, greater than the demigods, who could not control them. No one can surpass the acts of the Supreme Lord. The demigods were also advised not to try to counteract this incident because it was ordered by the Lord. Similarly, anyone who is ordered by the Lord to perform some action in this material world, especially preaching his glories, cannot be counteracted by anyone. The will of the Lord is executed under all circumstances. Text 37. Vishvasyastiti Layod Babahetoradio Yogeshvarar Apiduratyaya Yoga Maya Shemam Vidhasyati Sano Bhagavam Striyad Dishas Tatrasmadiya Vimrashena Kiyan Irhata. My dear sons, the Lord is the controller of the three modes of nature and is responsible for the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe. His wonderful creative power, Yoga Maya, cannot be easily understood even by the masters of yoga. That most ancient person, the personality of Godhead, will alone come to our rescue. What purpose can we serve on his behalf by deliberating on the subject? Purport. When something is arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should not be disturbed by it, even if it appears to be a reverse according to one's calculations. For example, sometimes we see that a powerful preacher is killed, or sometimes he is put into difficulty, just as Haridas Thakur was. He was a great devotee who came into this material world to execute the will of the Lord by preaching the Lord's glories. But Haridas was punished at the hands of the Qazi by being beaten in 22 marketplaces. Similarly, Lord Jesus Christ was crucified, and Prahlad Maharaj was put through so many tribulations. The Pandavas, who were direct friends of Krishna, lost their kingdom, their wife was insulted, and they had to undergo many severe tribulations. Seeing all these reverses affect devotees, one should not be disturbed. One should simply understand that in these matters there must be some plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavatam's conclusion is that a devotee is never disturbed by such circumstances. A devotee is never disturbed by such reverses. He accepts even reverse conditions as the grace of the Lord. One who continues to serve the Lord, even in reverse conditions, is assured that he will go back to Godhead, back to Vaikuṇṭha planets. Lord Brahma assured the demigods that there is no use in talking about how the disturbing situation of darkness was taking place, since the actual fact was that it was ordered by the Supreme Lord. Brahma knew this because he was a great devotee. It was possible for him to understand the plan of the Lord. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 3rd canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Two Doorkeepers of Vaikuṇṭha, Jaya and Vijaya, Cursed by the Sages. And we'll continue from text 17 on Wednesday, so we'll end our reading today. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Guru Dev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai.
Jai.
Our glories to the assembled devotees, our glories to the worldwide devotees, Sama Bhaktiveda Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nrsimhapuri Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gangamayi Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gangamayi Yamunamayi Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. Sham Kund Radhakund Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Scientific Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai.
Jai.
Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Bol. Jai Srimati Uma Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Hari Bol.
श्री पाद कृष्ण केशव प्रभु जी की जय। दंडवत प्रणाम।
Dandava Pranam Siri.